January is Thyroid Awareness Month, and while that gland itself is pretty small, the impact on your health is actually enormous, especially if it's out of balance. And despite the big role it plays, the symptoms of problems with thyroid, not always the easiest to spot. So let's get an education in this today. Joining me to talk about some warning signs, what you need to understand, and really just give us like a quick lesson in thyroids. We have endocrinologist Dr. Leslie Gamache with HCA Health One. Did I get your name right?
Yep.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us this January day. So Thyroid Awareness Month. What is this thyroid gland for those who don't know? Because I feel like we hear about it, we hear people complain about it. I don't know what the heck it does.
So the thyroid gland is a little gland that sits here at the base of your neck. It makes thyroid hormone, which is used in almost every cell of your body.
Okay.
So it
Huge
sets,
impact.
big impact, every organ, every tissue. So it basically sets the cellular metabolism. So if you have too little thyroid, everything's kind of slowed down. You might be tired, gaining weight, fatigued, constipated, so everything's kind of slowed. If you have too much thyroid hormone, it's the opposite. You might have racing heart, jittery, anxiety, unexplained weight loss. So it's definitely, one way or the other.
And what in the world can cause this thing to get knocked out of whack? You said it's a hormonal gland.
Hormonal glands. So, the most common are actually autoimmune conditions that cause it to either underfunction or overfunction. And that kind of gets the two extremes of symptoms.
Okay, you're talking about symptoms, so my next thought is like, how do we even figure out? There's the thyroid problem. I'm gonna guess, tell me if I'm wrong, people are looking at ruling out other problems before they get to that.
Yeah, the symptoms are so common and non-specific that it's hard to say, oh, I'm fatigued, oh, it's your thyroid for sure, because there's so many different things that overlap. But there's actually a really easy test to do for thyroid hormone. A TSH level is something that, simple blood test that your primary care doctor can check, and that screens out, most of these disorders, at least of hormone function.
So if you're the patient and you're dealing with this and you're going through your checklist of like, okay, I've got this, this, and this, you should probably ask that question, right? Could it be this other thing?
Yes, definitely. There's so much overlap, but certainly because the symptoms are so broad, it's an easy thing to add to blood work to check.
Is there any, so some of those symptoms to your point are so broad, is there any like hidden things or super red flags, something that would definitely raise your radar quickly?
So, I would say probably, extreme feelings. So definitely like, on hyperthyroidism, a racing heart and feeling really hot all the time. Hypothyroidism, a lot of times like cold intolerance. Some people run a little cold, but really cold, something that's a little bit different. Fatigue, sometimes you can figure out there might be other causes and stuff, but some of those unique constipation, cold intolerance are a little less common for different things. So those might be kind of a warning sign there.
This is also triggering when we talk about the symptoms, and I'm thinking of hormonal. My memory is in my own pregnancy, I remember my thyroid level was changing. So for women of certain ages, is there like another underlying thing to be looking out for?
Yeah, first of all, women are much more common. They have thyroid issues more commonly than men.
Oh, lucky
times.
us.
So yes.
Lucky us. Okay.
And then pregnancy is a big time of hormonal change, both, obviously estrogen, but thyroid changes a lot. And a lot of women have problems postpartum. So there's something called postpartum thyroiditis, which is a whole roller coaster of thyroid hormone where it goes up and down and then usually comes back to normal. But it's actually a fairly common postpartum problem.
Okay, so just ladies of a certain age, think about that too. Okay, last question before we let you go is, what do you do about it? It's medicinally treated, right?
Yes, the nice thing about hypothyroidism and low thyroid is that we have a bioidentical hormone that we can replace the missing hormone. So levothyroxine is a thing that you would just take every morning, and with some adjustments and blood work, we can usually get people to be back on track.
Okay, well thanks. I appreciate you, Dr. Gamache, for talking us through this, and hey, pay attention to your thyroids, folks. Don't let these little symptoms go unnoticed, right? Like some of this stuff you could easily dismiss, don't.
Exactly. It's an easy test to get, and make sure it's not your thyroid, because then you have something to treat these symptoms with.
Okay, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me.